Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Fellow Toastmasters. Everything is bigger in Texas. Well, that's what I always heard growing up. And after all, it is the largest state of the southern 48. As actually, the state of Texas is so darn big, I couldn't even put it all on this map over here. I had to take the panhandle up here and stick it over to the left and squeeze the tip of the state in down here. But Texas is a big state. If you go north to south in Texas, about 560 miles. East to west, about 800 miles. So that's pretty big. As a matter of fact, if you came in on the eastern part of, I guess I'm shaking too much. Came in on the eastern part of Texas, coming out of Louisiana on Interstate 10, and you came all the way across the state on Interstate 10, by the time you hit New Mexico, you'd have traveled 895 miles and would have crossed from the central time zone into the mountain time zone. So Texas is a very big state. Now, during the course of that drive, if you decided to spend some time in San Antonio, in all likelihood, you would have gone down to the Riverwalk, the world-famous Riverwalk, known for its lights, restaurants, and just fine, comfortable walking. And after that, once you came back to street level, you'd probably find yourself in front of one of Texas's most famous landmarks, the Alamo. Now, there's a sense of reverence when you go about the Alamo. I've been there many times over the past 20 or so years, and I've always enjoyed walking around the grounds, looking at the various artifacts and the displays they have. But as I was leaving Alamo Park after my first visit, my wife said, "Well, what'd you think?" I looked at her and I said, "I thought it'd be bigger than that. It was kind of small." And anecdotally, that's what I hear from most first-time visitors. "Boy, that was really kind of small, wasn't it? I thought it'd be much bigger than that." And actually, current day structure is smaller than the mission back in the day of Davy Crockett and the Battle of the Alamo. And that's not really surprising that people would think it's smaller because of all their expectations from the various movies they've seen over the years. But regardless of the size of the Alamo, the battle that took place there in the opening weeks of 1836, where the Texans were fighting for their independence from the Mexicans, it was big. It was a big event. Now, Colonel James Bowie, but regardless, lost here. Okay, make no mistake about it, the battle that took place at the Alamo was a loss for the Texans. And one of the reasons is that General Santa Anna was determined to crush the Texas Revolution. He wanted to bring Texas back within the Mexican government's control. And he was going to do this with brutal and merciless force. Now, Colonel Jim Bowie, who was a part of the Texas Army, was sent to the Alamo to do two things. One, he was supposed to round up all of the artillery pieces, take it away so that the Mexicans couldn't get it, and then destroy the fort. But he ran into two problems. One, there weren't enough draft animals for him to take all the artillery away. And second, the garrison commander convinced Bowie of the strategic importance of the Alamo up to the point where Bowie decided he was going to stay at the Alamo, even at the cost of his life, to deny Santa Anna that strategic point. Now, it was a poorly garrisoned outpost at this point. And so, a few days later, Colonel William Travis came in. He had maybe 30 people with him. And one of the unusual things about their relationship militarily is both Travis and Bowie had joint command of the Alamo once Travis showed up. Now, a few days later, Davy Crockett came, former Tennessee congressman, and he arrived with about 30 men. So at the end of the time, in the Alamo, there was perhaps 189 people, and that was it. And they came up against anywhere from 1,600 to 6,000 Mexican troops, depending on the contemporary versions that you want to accept. Now, despite all of the pleas of Bowie and Travis back to the Texas Army for more people, more food and supplies, and more ammunition, the fledgling Texas government was just too disorganized. They couldn't provide any support to the defenders of the Alamo. So, after a 12-day siege, with relatively little loss on either side, Santa Anna said, that's it, we're going to take this fort. So in the early morning hours of March 6, 1836, the 189 defenders of the Alamo were simply overwhelmed by superior numbers of the Mexican army and their firepower. By the end of the fighting, all 189 of the garrison were dead, either killed during the course of the fight, or for those few who actually surrendered, were, by Santa Anna's orders, executed. Now, Santa Anna really wanted to make a show of force. So what he did, he continued to move east in Texas, coming out of the Alamo. He had various generals as they started moving in that direction. At one point, he had with him, or one of his generals, had 346 prisoners of war. In the town of Goliad, which is about 60 miles southeast of the Alamo, he ordered all 342 of those prisoners to be executed. And they call that the Goliad Massacre. The soldiers were so close that only a few of them escaped the initial firing. The others were tracked down literally like animals and butchered by the Mexican soldiers. Well, this really angered General Sam Houston and his troops, so it also, with both the Alamo and the Goliad Massacre, galvanized the troops so that at the end of April, at the Battle of San Jacinto, Sam Houston's troops defeated the Mexican army. The next day, Santa Anna was captured. And as the head of the Mexican government, for his freedom, he gave to the Texas acknowledgement of them as the state, as an independent republic. And so yes, the Alamo is a small place, but it played a big role in a big drama and gave us a big state of Texas. Madam Toastmaster.